I mean, of course, you have put measures in to mitigate the cost of living, and that's, it's welcome, but it doesn't go anywhere near far enough. And we can see that in relation to energy costs and the cost of food and so forth. And obviously this crisis impacts on the least well-off in society, those that are on low incomes and fixed payments. And when people have to resort to food banks, then we have a huge problem. Because in any society, especially Ireland, which is a very, very wealthy country, if people are resorting to food banks, it's a complete failure, an utter failure on this government that people have to do that. And in times of crisis, people do very, very well. And probably the best example is energy companies, and they're very wealthy in this country. And the wealthy in this country have never had it so good. Energy companies have never had it so good. And if there's ever a reason, and you don't have to be a Bolshevik actually to explain this, if there's ever a reason for a windfall tax on energy companies, it is now. There should be no equivocation. These companies are making absolutely obscene amount of money, yet people are struggling to pay bills. Now, I don't think anybody in the government could defend this kind of this policy, but there seems to be equivocation in relation to Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, and disappointingly the Green Party. That even the Tories now are talking about windfall taxes on these huge companies. They're making such a vast amount of money, and if you want to get more obscene, the 9 most richest people in Ireland became more wealthier by 15 billion euros during the pandemic, and over the last 18 months they've become even more wealthier. Now, what does that say? What you could do is put a wealth tax in that taxes wealth and brings it back to society for the common good. Now, that again, I don't think that's hugely radical. I think that's kind of common sense. Because working people are continuously in an economical survival mode in relation to obtaining decent pay, decent conditions, health and education and so forth. And that's always been the case. And the fault lines have been exposed not only during the pandemic, but this crisis, that kind of, once you have an inbuilt social inequality and the class system, you will always have inequalities where the wealthy are doing extremely well and while the working people are struggling. And if people can't live, Minister, they will resist. And we've seen across history where people can't feed their children, they will get on the streets. And when people get on the streets, anything is possible. Absolutely anything is possible if you can't feed your children. So give that warning to the government that people are extremely angry, extremely frustrated, that they're in a situation where they literally can't feed their families. Thank you.